Hi, everyone, and welcome to She. Today on the show, we're talking about a topic that I would say is so close to my heart because I think it's questions I've asked as a woman and as a mother. And I think I've been in so many sessions where so many people have asked that question. And you know, I just want to go deeper, and I hope I can keep my tears in as I say this. And just the other day, I lost my dad, you know, and my dad was my best friend. And in my opinion, I think like the best ideal parent ever. And, you know, just thinking about and writing his tribute, I remember just asking myself, you know, gosh, like what makes an ideal parent? Because in my opinion, this is like the perfect parent, you know, and he was a doctor. I even have a hard time talking about him in the past, but yeah, he was a doctor, but still so present and just that ideal dad for me. But when I think about what's happening currently, you know, you have babies, then you hire enough support for you and make sure, you know, there's that little ecosystem around your children and you go on with your life. And also, so many times people will be asking, why are you ready for these children? Are you having these children so they're raised by somebody else? Or where do you draw that line? And I keep saying it's like looking at work-life balance the other way around. But this time not looking about work or thinking about work, but thinking about the child. And I have two amazing guests. Like I always tell you, I wouldn't let you down. You know, I went looking highs and low and found two amazing guests to take us through this topic today. And so drum rolls, my two guests are here today. And I'll just let you guys introduce yourself, then we just delve into this. And I know it's deep, it's for goosebumps, but I'm hoping we can be able to have answers. And I hope you guys have those answers. Yeah. Well, hopefully I can chip in as well, but yeah, no pressure. Yeah. So maybe we start with you, introduce yourself, and then we can take it from there.
Thank you so much. Katherine Gathu. I'm a family physician by training. I'm a wife and I'm a mom of 4. I have 3 beautiful or handsome boys and a beautiful girl. My first one is 8 years old, and then I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. That's the girl. And I'm so excited to be here and be part of this conversation.
Wow. Yeah. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And I'm Danica Mutiga. I'm a wife, I'm a mom as well.
Yeah.
I have 3 children. So I have a girl who's 16, a boy who's 13, going to turn 14 in October. And then the last one is a girl who recently turned 10.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a doula and I'm also a childbirth educator. And parenting and family and marriage is just my passion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here today and to discuss with you guys about this topic.
Before we go into parenting, you don't look like, when I'm trying to do the math, it's not mathing. How you have a 16-year-old, unless you had them when you were 16.
No.
That's impressive, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess raising, like when you're at the teenager level, it's a whole different ballgame from what we could be saying.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And let's just get into it. And I know it's a difficult conversation to have because half the time you feel like maybe you're judging others, like, why aren't you around your child kind of thing? But let's forget that because I don't think we're here to judge, but just to discuss how in this day and age, like so many of us have children and then we're not there for them. And that's where I want us to start. Have things changed, you know, or are we doing this because, you know, like we need to put food on the table? Has the purpose of the gift of a child changed? You know, where do we draw that line? And what are your thoughts? Have you seen it? Maybe it's just me who's also seen it. Have you seen this issue as well, where, you know, parents are not present anymore? You know, if I want to know the cry my child has, I call the nanny. I'm like, you know, what does this child want? And it's my child. You know, so have you seen this, and what are your thoughts towards this issue?
One thing that concerns me is how on social media, ladies are like shooting videos showing that I have to go hide in the bathroom to be by myself or to think or to, you know, and I'm like, these are little humans and they're very interesting people. And they're not people to run away from or regret that you had them. Or feel like, you know, they're such a burden. They aren't. They are the most they're the greatest inheritance or heritage, let me say, that God has given us. That this is somebody whose life you can impact from the word go, from the time they are born all the way to the time they leave home. And even after they leave home, this guy is still, and I'm sure you and I, all of us, I'm sure we've always gone back home to ask, okay, so mom, how did you handle XYZ when you gave birth? You know, you really appreciate your mom's presence. So it makes me sad to see parents today regretting that they had children or feeling like these children are a burden. They aren't. They are a heritage from the Lord. These children are a reward from God. That's my belief.
I just want to give a reality check, and it doesn't mean that's where I'm at. But you know, I'm thinking about like the other day we had a show on sleep training. And you know, like something like sleep training, you know, like your child is not sleeping, so you're sleep deprived. I have 4 boys. I could write a book about, you know, how active those boys are and how you're there trying to have your quiet time and someone knocks and they're in and want to have a conversation or whatever. Or where, you know, there's work as well, you know, and you're trying to build this life, but there's children as well. And so I agree with you is that people feel like the child is a burden. And, you know, we joke about it, right, as moms, and you're like, phew, like the only time I have my Usta time is in the bathroom, you know? So if we think about it realistically, do you think it then changes what you just talked about, or are you still in the same space?
You've seen these memes, or, you know, when moms sometimes want to hide in the car before going into the house, just because they want to, I mean, they know when they enter the house, it's probably chaos and all that, but I call it, it's a good chaotic moment for me. Let's not probably try to belittle or underestimate the responsibility that comes with parenting. It's quite a huge responsibility, and it's God-given. I was reading statistics regarding infertility, and infertility in the medical space, we call it a season for about 12 months where a woman or a couple has been unable to have a child. And they say that 1 in 6 couples, yes, this was 2023. It was a report released by WHO. 1 in 6 couples have a challenge conceiving within their first year of trying to conceive. And that to work in the medical space, see what women go through or what couples go through to try get that child, the financial burden, emotional, the toil it takes on them, and whatever price they'd be willing to pay to get a child is what helps me to sort of bring myself together and appreciate the gift of a child. It's really a gift. And once you start seeing that from that angle, not trying again to underestimate the responsibility that comes with it, then you are able to sort of draw that balance. I call it priorities. Just getting your priorities in place, knowing that this is a responsibility from your maker, from your God. And I mean, not everyone gets it as easy as some have, or even if some go through challenges to get children, finally they do. Then God has entrusted you with such a huge responsibility. We cannot afford just, you know, to take it for granted.
So it's interesting you say that, because then I put myself in the shoes of a young woman who maybe has a child in high school or in campus. You know, I'll never forget a friend of mine who had 2 kids when we were in campus. And I remember just thinking, wow, like, as in, how is she even managing? Of course, right now, she's, like, we envy her. Because as we run around with our little ones, she has grown children in university and all that. But, you know, so I think about, you know, like, maybe that type of demographic, or where, you know, how you have, you're dating this person and you end up having a child, you're not ready for it and things like that, then you're told, marry this person, you know, and all that. And so what would we be telling that sort of situation, someone in that sort of situation? Because then I guess it's a little different, you know, because then maybe you're not ready. Though, of course, I know, like, if you think about it, it'd be like, if you are willing to sleep with that person, then it should have been. But so many times, you know, youth and it's folly, you're not thinking that way. So what would you be telling that person, just in terms of what we are saying as the child being a gift, and just that revelation? What would you say to?
I encountered a young girl who was 16 and she was 38 weeks pregnant.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, and was offering childbirth lessons to her, and she was traumatized the whole time.
I can imagine.
You know,
that's
a
child.
That's a child, and that's the age of my firstborn.
Imagine.
So I was really trying to talk to her like I would if it were my child.
Yeah.
And yeah, their concerns are great, but the one thing I wanted to let her know is that this child is not a mistake. This child is not a mistake. Don't feel like the world has turned against you, God is angry with you, and they're like, this child, yes, he or she is coming at a time when you weren't ready for him or her, but they're not a mistake, and they are a gift. And later on, you will look back and you'll say, surely, this was a gift. This is a good thing. You know, when God created everything, He said it is good. So there's no way we'll start telling her this is this child is burdened. And you know, these kids here, they hear and they respond, and they adopt to the words we speak over them in utero, and even when they're out. Even when we're doing that YouTube or TikTok video, and we're complaining about them, they're hearing, they're internalizing, and they're actualizing the stuff that they have heard. So I'd tell that girl, please hang in there.
That's true.
Yeah, hang in there. There's help, there's hope, and this child is not a mistake. They're a blessing, they're a gift. Yeah, just the way she said, there are people who are struggling with infertility. I'm sure right now you can think of a relative, a friend, a colleague who
so many
is wishing that they had kids. So what a privilege.
What a privilege
to be a parent.
It's true.
And more than just raising them to be responsible members of the society, more than that, you're grooming them for heaven. It's not just here. So God has given us an awesome task. And you have the great privilege of being on that task day in, day out. Like you have chances every day to get it right.
That's true.
That's
very, very true. When you think about it, Danica, what's the greatest gift a parent or a mother can offer a child? Because we're wondering, when is it fit for one to be a parent? Is it when you're in your 30s or 40s, when you're considered to be more mature? Do we sometimes imagine a 16, 18? Of course, they are children, but sometimes when they're in that situation, even if they hadn't planned for it, do you imagine that they cannot, be a parent to that child? When we think about it, and even in that scenario you've given us with your dad, love, I think as long as one would be able to love that child, then that is really the highlight of being a parent, that they are able to love wholeheartedly, provide emotional. They may not be able to provide in as much as they would want financially, but they are there. So I think if someone, that's what I would encourage that young person, that as long as you can love this child, then you can grow into whatever else you need to grow into. But love is paramount for you to be able even to move this child from one stage of life to the other.
Wow. And I love that because I think it simplifies parenting. That could be, you know how they say, how do you eat an elephant? Just one bite at a time. So we just took one bite. Love. Like if you don't know how to figure it all out, just start with that simple aspect, love. And I know, Danica, when you were speaking, you talked about privilege as well. And I want us to speak about that a little bit, because I don't know whether we know that being a parent is a privilege. And if we do, then what is wrong with this day and age, where we're seeing a lot of absent parents, And I know I was discussing this with someone the other day, and was saying that the previous generation is where it started, where, you know, they talk about the dad with the newspaper, not engaging the kids. And we had a few moms, not too many, the percentage was very small with that generation of moms who are not present. I think we had more present moms then. Then comes this generation, our generation, where we have both moms and dads not present. And it's so rampant, you know, that you'll always find, I hear people joking that when you go to where like kids are practicing swimming, and it's mostly house helps and drivers taking the kids. If you go for parents' days, parents don't show up. You know, if prize giving day, whatever it is, that kids just are being raised by that community. And it's not the community we used to talk about before. It's this support system. And it looks like it's okay, you know. You're a corporate woman, you're advised build a community of nannies and caretakers and drivers, but where do we draw that line? Like, how has it been for you? Because, you know, you have careers as well. You know, and what would you say has worked for you? You know, just in trying to handle this gift that we have of being a child.
Maybe if I can start with myself. I remember when I got married a bit early at the age of 25, but I got my firstborn at the age of 30. Around that time, we waited deliberately for about 5 years, and this was because I was in school. At that time, I was doing my master's in family medicine, and it was quite a rigorous time of my life. I had to be in school very late hours and very early in the morning. And at that time, we had a conversation with my husband, and we knew that at this time, if we had a child, I would not be there. And that for me had never been on the table. It would not a conversation I was willing to have, that I would have a child or children and I would not be present. As career moms, I think that's something we have to face every day. And as I'd mentioned before, it all boils down to priority. Parenting, as we keep on saying, is a gift and it's a privilege. I honestly think sometimes even more than my career, because sometimes we change careers, we change jobs. These things change. An analogy is given that today, if, you know, God forbid, I'm not there, my job will find somebody else to sit on that seat. It won't be the same. It would, that's true. But it won't be the same for my children. You know, I mean, I'm a very significant person in their life that, you know, I'm almost irreplaceable as a past parent. And so that gives me a lot of reverence in whatever I am doing and whatever choices I am making. I'm very, very deliberate. Sometimes by nature of my work, I don't get to be there as much as I would want during the week. But I know certain days where it's there, you know, the kids' parents' days or school days and all that, and weekends. I think my weekends are very, very set aside for God and for my children, because I want to spend as much time as I can. Not that I don't do that during the week, but sometimes I feel I don't do that as much as I should. But over the weekend, over and above all, I believe quality versus quantity. You know, when I look at that balance, it may not always be 50-50, you know, it may not always be perfect, but where I may not be able to quantitatively provide enough time as I ought to, then quality. If it's the 5 minutes, I always enjoy doing prayer time with my children, and they've learned how to pray. Even when I'm not there, they will, you know, whisper and pray to God. Or at least one of us parents will have to be there to do their evening prayer before they go to bed. And so there are few pockets in their lives when we say us parents have to be there and we have to do it. And my husband and I are quite deliberate at doing that, because we know that our children learn more from what they see us do than even from what we tell them. So I think priority, once you prioritize that this is my child, I have a responsibility. Some I can delegate, but most of it I have to be present there, because even the spiritual nature, there's a way I can pass it on as a parent more than anyone else can. Then that makes me want to take my role a bit more seriously and to be able to give as much as I should in that role.
Wow, that's deep. Danica, you want to add something to that?
we attended a parenting class by Dr. Mukolwe. I believe
I did that as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Raising future parents.
Yeah.
Yes, and he said there'll only be 2-year-olds once.
Yeah.
She'll only be 10 years old once. Now, once that sinks in, you really want to maximize on that time that God has given you.
Yeah.
And just to add on to what Kathy has said, that give them quality time. For kids, quality is spelled as time.
Yeah.
Just spend time with them. Yeah, it's the telling them how you used to play when you were a kid. It's the mixing the chapati dough and giving them a tiny one to cook alongside you. It's dad going with them to the garage. And, you know, it's that time you spend with them. And I think today, guys equate good parenting with lots of money and going to Dubai and having awesome experiences.
Yeah.
So to them, that's now awesome parenting, perfect parenting. But I watch parents like from low-income households. You see the dad has held the child on the shoulder. They're walking in Uhuru Park. The child has a soda and maybe a pack of chips. And they're so happy. Or he wanted to show the son how planes take off. So they walked all the way to Wilson Airport. And they are standing there and they watch the plane take off.
Precious memories and moments.
That child has more to hold on to
That's true.
than the one who has to wait till December so that we can go to Dubai.
So
And all this time, mom and dad have not been around. So I think give them time. The Bible says, this law of the Lord you'll teach them when you're sitting, when you're walking, and
when you're by the roadside.
And it's the everyday stuff. So it's the cooking the little chapati, it's the walking to Wilson, it's the I'm going to the shop, let's go together. Shosho or grandma has guests, let's go and help her. It's those pockets of time that make a big difference. The major, I'm sure for all of us, the major lessons we've learned from our folks did not come in, let's sit down and talk.
So true.
It's
hardly ever that.
It's hardly ever
Or when
that.
maybe you're an adult is when you're let's sit down and talk. But
Exactly.
when you're kids, it's what you're
But
saying.
when your kids actually are watching you with such admiration for like, you're everything to me, mom. You're everything to me, dad. Let's hang out. Have you seen that story of this child who was borrowing the dad $1? He asked the dad, how much do you make in an hour? And then the dad said $2. Then the child asked, can I borrow $1? So the child produces another $1 and says, okay, now can I have an hour of your time? You know, that is so heartbreaking.
Oh dear.
Like you can tell they just crave to hang out.
Time,
Just hang out.
And I think the most painful thing is that social media, you know, and this hustle for like hustling, you know, for work and all these things is taking over that time, you know, and so our kids are being raised by other people and are not getting that time, you know, so then you see them in Dubai in December, you know? And as we take a break, you know, as we reflect, I remember a story given by a friend, and I remember having a meeting with him, and he was explaining how COVID is what showed him how absent he was, because he traveled so much for work, and so during COVID, he gets to, of course, now be home, and he remembers looking at his children, and he's like, hiya. This is how my children look. Can you imagine? And you know, you can imagine how many people went through that sort of wave during COVID. And that's just for the kids. Let's not talk about the spouse, because that's a whole different ball game. But you know, it's just scary how the modern world and its developments have come to take away this precious gifts that we have and privileges, you know. So we'll take a break, but when we come back, we'll delve even deeper, you know, because we learned about love. I want to know what else we can bite off this huge elephant. So taking a break, we'll be right back.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
Welcome back. We are here on She. In case you're just joining us, we're talking about this gift and privilege of being a parent, you know, and just how the modern world has, you know, changed what that looks like. And, you know, if you're listening to us on radio, I have two amazing ladies here, and I hope you're catching the vibes and the laughter, even though you can't see us. And, you know, it's so interesting that you brought up love. And, you know, like I was talking about my dad, and when I was doing his tribute, you know, I remember one of the stories he told us was how he had gotten a scholarship, you know, one of those fully paid for and all that to travel abroad and do his studies. And of course, such a big deal for a doctor, as you can imagine, you know, I guess your income is increased, your profile, your brand, you know, all those things. And he tells us how he didn't take the opportunity because he looked at us. And I remember when he was telling me this story, he's like us guys were like my babies, like how my kids are right now, because we're also four, you know, and he's like, he just looked at all these little babies and he's like, gosh, he's gonna leave my mom to just handle it and miss out, you know, like you said, you're only 2 years once, and he's like, he just couldn't, you know, he just couldn't leave. And, you know, it leads me to my question, like what has changed? Because now we get opportunities, you know, and, you know, you travel 75% of the time and you take it, and you know it means you'll hardly see your family, but you take it. So what changed? Is it social media? Is it that we have to because things are expensive, schools are expensive? I don't know, where does this modern world fit in for you as you raise your kids? Where do you draw that line? You know, and I know you touched on it a little bit when you said you didn't have your children until, you know, because that's one way of looking at it. But, you know, like, how do we handle this modern day world with the realities that are there?
I think what's motivated guys to take up the jobs, the travel and what, one, it's selfishness. I have to look out for me, you know. You only live once. You only live once.
I am enough.
I am enough. I'm only this age once. So one is selfishness. Two, the standards the world has placed on us. That this is the school you must go to. These are the kind of foods you must eat. But, you know, you can take the reins back and ask yourself just what is enough for me, for my son, my daughter, for my husband. What's enough? Must we eat pizza every week? No. Arrowroots are also good. They're also good.
They're healthier.
They're food.
And they're healthier, yes, it's true.
They're also food. So the pursuit of wealth, I think, has taken our focus away from the home, from the family. It used to be a thing that was applauded to be a stay-at-home mom. It is not anymore.
True.
Because you must be out there making a name for yourself. You must show up in a newspaper, a podcast. You must show up on someone's page being hailed as so-and-so. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But a pursuit of that in expense of the family, I think that's where the problem comes in.
And you're right, Danica. Some of the things that were supposed to help us, we've now maybe taken them a bit overboard. Like, for example, what you had alluded to earlier, our house managers that are supposed to be our support system and to help us, now that they're available, we sometimes now throw everything to them. And they, you know, for them to do everything, not knowing that some of it, as I was saying, spiritual impartation is like impartation. They may only do so much and they cannot do it all. And sometimes even people or parents think that, you know, I'm going to earn money, and they now come and gift their children, come with all those presents.
And overcompensate.
That's the thing, that's the thing. And they think that it will make up for the time they missed the basketball game if they needed to be there, or the time they need to spend with their children. They think they can make up for that. And one thing they don't realize, these children grow up very fast and get out of their lives. And sometimes I have seen parents of adults who now they have grown, their children are older, and they're trying to baby them or be parents to them when they are much, much older. And that boat has sailed.
It's
you
already
cannot,
past,
it becomes, So when you really think about that, then you want to sober up at this point.
That's so true.
That's
so true.
Even that thing of community, community is not these people who help you. They will never love your child the way you do. They will never pray for your child the way you can. So that's not community. When we were encouraged, build a community around you. It's bring like-minded people around you
to now raise your kids together.
Raise your kids together. These guys, we love them. They help us. Honestly, they do.
They do.
Because, you know, to be at some seminar at 6 p.m., it means somebody needs to be
at home
with
That's
them.
Very true.
But you can, the way she said, you can make a conscious decision that I must pray with my children before they sleep. Just that time. Carve that time and be there with them. We attended a function where the sound guy came with his 2-year-old, and the kid knew where to plug in the stuff, knew how to sit still, you know, so that sound would carry well. And I just felt, wow. I felt so proud of him. I was like, you're doing so well. You are working, but you're also involving your child. And you can find ways to involve this little human in your profession. You can. I read a very old book. I just can't remember the name. But they gave a story of this child whose dad was a cobbler, and every day they'd go to the shop to make shoes or to repair shoes, and sometimes food would come burnt, and dad would say, you know, I think mom was stressed today, or food would come late. I think mom today was at the farm, and he knew the name of each customer. The child was watching how the dad would handle each customer, and how the dad would be like, we need to hurry home before it's dark, so mom don't worry. And that dad passes on, and the child takes up that profession, and the community says, there's no difference between how this young man is handling us and how his dad was handling us. So take them in.
They see it.
They see it
and they learn.
And they learn. So take them in, involve them in everything. We are making a budget. Just how far can we stretch the 400? Can it buy veggies? Can it buy a bit of starch? Are we able to throw in a protein? They learn from that.
It's true.
It's
true.
So
and I think their kids are also so eager. You know, it's funny you've talked about budget, and you know, sometimes we'll be seated, we're like, oh, like what do we have for dinner or things like that, and the kids are listening. Then you hear them giving their opinion. But you know, if you shut them off, then they just stop and they'll never, you know, do that again. But they want to be Like one of my mentors says, you know, that children come to join us in our world, not that we join them once they are in to the world of not wanting to sleep or whatever, but they should come and join our world, our structures, our training and all that. And I think part of that is that if this weekend I'm going to the garage, like you said, then you go with the child and all that. Because then now if we decide they are a different world, so we leave them home with the nanny and now we go off, then we lose the plot and you find you don't even get that time, you know. And I'm just curious, you know, even as we speak, do I call it, what other tips would you give, or what else has worked for you, just as you try to figure out this sort of balance, for lack of a better word, because we don't have the privilege of being a stay-at-home mom, because I think it's a privilege, you know. So yes, you have to go to work and all these things. Are there tips that have worked for you? I know, like, one of my best ones, a friend told me once, and she was like, when you get home, be the best stay-at-home mom ever, you know. Yes, you're not there like maybe 8 to 5 or whatever period of time, but when you get home, you know, like, make sure your phone is off, you know, because also you could be, you work 8 to 5, but when you go home, you're still on your phone, the proverbial newspaper, you know. But when you get home, to be the best stay-at-home mom, you know, that you could ever be. So you'll find I'm that mom who, if I have any phone calls, I'll take them on my way home. Once I get home, I try as much as possible not to be on the phone, so then I can have, you know, 150% attention. But I usually think I still don't do, because I find my son always pushing my face, you know, like, mommy, look, mommy, you know. So I'm always like, he's doing that because maybe he thinks I'm not looking his direction, you know. So I don't know what has worked for you, or what tips, you know, you'd say. I know you talked about love, but is there anything else that you feel would help us and help this generation, so that we can be more present and more appreciative of the privilege and the gift of having a child?
All right. I was just thinking about it, but I think one aspect for me that really helps to ground me is prayer. And I mean, not really trying to over-spiritualize like parenting, although it's actually a spiritual thing, but prayer, because to be honest, as I was saying, Faith, I don't have enough. I'm not able to be there probably as much as I'd want to, but just that spiritual awareness or understanding that this is where I need to be at this point is very, very important to me. And especially somebody like Danica, who is dealing with teenagers, you know, you have teenage young, you know, men and women, and there are certain crucial times in their lives when you missed out, you really missed out. So you really need to be very spiritually aware, so that you know, at this one I can, you know, somebody else can do that exactly. But this one, I really need to be there. So that kind of like spiritual awareness is quite important. And I think the same way we ourselves, no matter how busy we are with our careers, at least for us Christians, you have to spend time with the Bible. You have to spend time with God every morning, because you've prioritized that moment. I think it's the same thing that I do, or that we ought to do. So pockets. Don't look for a whole day. Look for an hour.
Come by.
Look for an hour. And I enjoy also doing what the kids love doing. You've seen parents who've gone and, you know, they're jumping where they're balloons or something with, you know, with their kids, just to be where they are and to sort of be in their space, so that you can understand them, and so that whether it's that 1 hour in a day that you get with them, they'll almost feel like you are there with them the entire day, because at that time you entered into their space, you understood them.
World,
you know, now what we are still learning to do is to listen more than to speak. You know, these children have a lot to say.
And so you guys who have girls, I can imagine the stories are more.
So to listen, give them an opportunity to tell you who they sat to during break, what they ate in school, and just having very intentional conversations. I mean, I was reading somewhere where they're saying, don't ask your child just how was your day. No, just be more intentional about that question. Who did you sit next to during lunch? You know, something like that, something that will allow them and give them an opportunity to speak more with you. And in those opportunities, you find it's what we are saying before, quality. It's a quality conversation. It could be 1 minute, it could be 1 hour, vis-a-vis lengthy time where maybe you've not achieved so much. But those pockets of opportunity, be intentional about making very good use of that moment you have with your child. Yeah.
I'd say also have non-negotiables. I don't work on weekends. That could be your non-negotiable.
Yeah.
I must be home by this time.
A certain time.
Yeah, I must take a month off during this particular holiday. I think our folks used to do that. Like my mom in December, the helps were sent away. And then it's you and mom and, you know, you're bonding, you're working in the home, and that's how I learned to take care of a home because mom was present. So for her, that was a non-negotiable. What values are we upholding in this family? Which relationships are we surrounding ourselves with? Once you have those basics, now building your life on it is easier. I remember we were advised that you shouldn't have 3 months away from your spouse, from your children. Now, if your work calls for that, negotiate for, can I go with my family? Can I go with my family? So I think
even 3 months is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But just have those non-negotiables. I'm not going to do X, Y, Z. Especially when it comes to my children. I'm not going to miss a parents' meeting. The way you've said we have teenagers now, if you remember during high school, there's a time your parents came to help you choose. Will you take home science or will you take agriculture?
Oh yes, there's that.
There's those choices of subjects. Imagine the child who didn't have a parent come. And I can speak into your life because I know these are your strong. So for you, for parents, I'd say, please, be there moments when they're running that race and they won, when they're choosing subjects, when they want to have kids over for a birthday for the very first time. There are moments you shouldn't miss because those pursuit of wealth or because the boss said. I think if you draw healthy boundaries in your own social circles, in your family circles, because it's all those people who pressure you to be away, and even in your work circles. If there's some guys they're not going to be here past 5:30.
That's so true.
There are families who know this one, there'll be a family gathering, yes. But if his wife is not around, he's not going to be here past 6.
Oh, wow.
There's some social gatherings where people know if you're inviting me and not my kids as well, you're saying this is a kid-free zone, and
then
you know,
we're not coming.
Then we're not coming. So have those basics, the foundations. Those are your non-negotiables. Then build your life around that, and you'll find that you have a very functional family.
That's true.
You know, it's interesting you bring up about inviting, you know, like for a party. And growing up, my dad would say, if you don't invite the whole family, then we're not coming. And it's interesting that I've tried to keep that like rule. But it's so interesting how you go for parties and you know, like maybe it's people you don't know, like maybe it's a child you've met the parents through school, right? Or like just parents you don't know, but the kids are friends. And you know, like guys are actually comfortable to just drop the child and go. And I find it so hard to do that. Not that I don't trust the person, but you know, the way this world is, you don't know who the neighbors are, you know, like just all these things, right? And so I know so many times, and you know, I have many children. So half the time I'm like, I'm sorry, like if we have to come, we have to come all of us. At least, you know.
Say we are a party of 6. We're a party of 5.
I know, and I'm always like, you know, if the kids are even playing, at least I know they'll tell on each other. So for me, that's my cover as well. That even though I'm not there, I know that they've gone for the party together, they'll tell on each other, then it's easier. But this world has become so, you know, like unsafe in some instances.
Very
You're just
true.
like, you know, let's have all of them there, and if possible, let the parents be there.
That's very true.
And when do they learn? Like how do they learn how to say hi to an important person? How do they learn how to incorporate the new kid who's just joined school and they've come for this party? How do they learn? Why would you say come but not with your children? I mean, I think that's
true.
No.
And also, in this new world, our time is so limited as well. You know, so if this party is happening on Saturday and that's the day you want me to show up without my children, then, you know, then it becomes difficult for me to come because that's the day I have, right? If you think about it, in the grand scheme of things. Wow. Any other tips before I
was just thinking about, I don't know whether anyone, you know, as we bring them up, it's both, you know, we correct them, we instruct them, sometimes we discipline them in the Lord. And I was just thinking about it that this is one area that we have to be there. You know, I think even the Bible in the book of Ephesians talks about how we, or that time addressing dads, that, like, they really need to be there to discipline their children in the Lord. It's about doing that in the Lord. And sometimes you find, that's why sometimes you get a very perverse generation. Young people, you know, sometimes you wonder, did you grow up with a parent, you know? You know, even some basic etiquette, excuse me, thank you. You just wonder who was surrounding you, you know, when you were growing up. So I guess even when it comes to matters discipline, the more reason we should be around them, just so that we can see them, you know, failing the first time and hopefully not doing that again, because we've been there to pick that up and correct them. So it's maybe not necessarily a tip, but some other area that we as parents would really need to come in so that we are able to nurture our children the way they are supposed to, and, you know, train them up in the Lord. So just
and, you know, even as we come to a close, the final question is this myth or thought that people have nowadays where they'll be like, oh, do you want to like put in so much in children, yet kids, it's like, you know, they become who they become. You know how you'll talk about a child raised in a Christian home, and, you know, they end up going wayward, and children raised by, you know, alcoholics or whatever, and they end up in the church, you know. So guys are like, you know, clearly their destination is already, destiny is already set. So it doesn't really matter what you do. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's becoming such a popular way of thinking for so many young parents who are like, you know, you don't need to put too much because really it's already like determined, so to speak.
I don't necessarily agree with that. And by the way, Faith, I don't know whether we all, and you know, our viewers, the parents, know that we are just but stewards.
That's true.
These children belong to God. I think God is the only one who has a blueprint for their lives, and probably He only knows, you know, their beginning and the end. We are stewards. We've been given these children, and remember, we are going to give an account to them. I'm reminded, I think, the parable in the Bible where, you know, different talents were given to different servants, and at the end of it all, each was supposed to show what they did. So you can imagine you've been given a child and all you did is bury, or you didn't nurture them. You didn't. There's nothing good that you can see, as opposed to somebody else who takes the child and realizes this is a gift. I can multiply them. I can help them, you know, expand. I can, you know, enlarge them in the way they think and in the way they grow up in the ways of the Lord. And because at the end of it all, our Father, who is our Master, is going to come back to us and ask us to give an account. So when we think about it as a way of stewardship, we are stewards and we are going to give an account. Then it's not just, you know, it's already predetermined and all that. You have been given a gift, a talent, and the Master is coming and He will ask you to give an account. What kind of an account will one give?
That's so deep. I've actually never looked at it that way. Just in terms of, you know, like the the talents that you're given, and you could literally just bury it, you know, just do nothing. You're like, you know, you came like this, or you want to eat sugar, okay. You want to, God help us, you know.
God help us.
So that's a fantastic revelation. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Anything to add, Danica?
Yeah, that we are not alone, that we are not running this race in our own strength. We are not doing it in our own wisdom. Like she said, our blueprint comes from God. And the way the verse says, I know whom I've believed, and I'm persuaded he's able to keep that which he has promised
Against that day.
Against that day. And even what we commit to him, he's faithful. He's faithful. We are not planting in vain. Yeah, we plant and then we will reap a harvest. So no, it's not in vain. It's not in vain. Yeah, these prayers you're praying, this work you're putting in, the time you're putting aside, the opportunities you have let slide by because of these, no, that sacrifice has not, it's not in vain. It's not gone unnoticed. The one who rewards us, it's not our boss or the committee, or who, it's the Lord who rewards us. So let's be faithful. Let's be faithful. There's one who plants, there's another who come water, and then the harvest will be evident. So we can't see it now, but it will be evident later.
And later.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, I always say that I think parenting for me is like the hardest, but yet most fulfilling job. You know, like I don't think anything tests me like being a parent. Like tests everything, you know, keeps me on my knees, but still like so fulfilling. Like one of my most fulfilling moments before I ask you for yours as a parent is once, you know, as the kids, we're dropping them to school because we drop them ourselves. I'd say this prayer to them and quote the word. Then one day I had my sons like saying the same prayer, and like as they're praying and quoting the same Bible verse, you know, and especially the part I'd tell them, you'll be like trees planted by the river, you'll prosper in all you do. And so now they started saying that in their prayers, and like I literally had tears. I'm like, this is actually worth it. You know, because when you find me in the thick of it, I'm always saying I feel like a street preacher, trying to settle my boys to listen to me preach the word before they sleep. I'm like, I'm screaming, I'm like, sit down, and I'm preaching the word, and I'm like, okay, let's pray. You know, I feel like a serious street preacher. But to hear them repeat that word, I'm like, let me keep shouting. You know, and before we close, what's that that most fulfilling moment for you, or highlight so far as being a parent?
I think for me is to hear my children, let me put it in a way, preach back to me what I have told them before. And imagine when I've told them, you know, it's not good to lie. They're like, Mommy, was that a lie? You know, I mean, they challenge me, or you know, or something like that. Mommy, but you say we can't eat without praying. We didn't pray.
And we saw you eating.
Exactly. Something that I have taught them, that Mommy, we don't speak like that to strangers. We love each other. The other day we were in church, it was a pastor's birthday, we were given cake, and before my child could eat, he came to give me, because I've taught them how to share. And that for me was so, it melted my heart. So just to see them do and repeat some of the words that I've spoken to them, that for me is fulfilling, and it makes me want to keep doing it and doing it, because I know the seed
It's going somewhere.
It's going somewhere.
That's very, very true.
For me, it's them going out there and you hear reports that they did this thing unsupervised. Like I didn't have to say, remember to, or make sure you, but someone comes to say, your child was kind to me. Your child helped me when they came to my home. They just basically what we've all said, what we have planted, then you're seeing, you're kind of seeing, oh, there's a bud, there's a blossom, there's a fruit coming. It's very fulfilling. And then to say that we know you love us. Sometimes they behave like you don't. sometimes they look at you like, wow, you hate me. But I don't. But
You're not forgiving me.
you're not forgiving me, Mommy. You're not being kind. You're not allowing us to eat chapo 3 days in a week, you know. But when they come and they say, I know Mom loves me, because every morning she wants to see my face. She wants to make sure she sees my face. That really blesses my heart. Please know I loved you. I love you. You know, please know you are. You didn't walk this journey alone.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for sharing. And you know, as now I close, it's interesting. As I've been sharing about putting down this tribute for my dad, I remember just thinking to myself how so many times I've had people say that the best inheritance to leave for your children is what you've taught them. And that never made sense to me until like I went through it myself. And yes, my dad left us an inheritance, but you know, you don't even think about it. But when you're putting down that tribute, you're not saying, oh, it's how many acres of land and how many houses, you know, but we're just writing down all these lessons he taught us, you know, and that's what matters in the end. Because also we get caught up, you know, I need to make sure every child has a house and a piece of land and money in the bank, and that's great, you know.
Awesome.
But I think the thing that will matter the most is being able to train them skills to even take care of that property. That they don't kill themselves over that property, you know. And as just reflecting this week, I was like, my goodness, you know, I pray that I don't get so caught up that I forget, you know, that the most important thing I can leave my children with is these lessons that we're talking about, so that they are better human, you know. And my pastor says that you will know you've been a good parent in the evidence of your grandchildren. You know, so not even in your children.
Wow.
In how your children now will be parents, you know, in being the, you know, the future parents, so to speak. And I think that's even more scary, because then now I need to raise them to be solid adults, to be able to raise. Then now I'll know I've done my job. So God help us. And I hope if you're listening and watching, you've been challenged enough to, you know, just sit back and go like, okay, here is where I've gone wrong. Even for us, as we're seated here, and be like, okay, this is what I need to adjust. This is what I need to change, so that we can be fit parents, do I say, or ideal parents for the children we've been given by God, because you know, you're the most ideal person to raise that child that you have. And I pray for those who are also trusting God for children, like we said, that you know, God is the giver of these babies and he's a miracle working God. I pray that he'll just bless you with children, and as many as you need, and in Jesus' name. So thank you for watching She. We love you, but God loves you more. See you next week right here on Family TV and Radio.